The Norris Geyser Basin is the hottest geyser basin in the park and is located near the northwest edge of Yellowstone Caldera near Norris Junction and on the intersection of three major faults. The Norris-Mammoth Corridor is a fault that runs from Norris north through Mammoth to the Gardiner, Montana, area. The Hebgen Lake Fault runs from northwest of West Yellowstone, Montana, to Norris. This fault experienced an earthquake in 1959 that measured 7.4 on the Richter scale. Norris Geyser Basin is so hot and dynamic because these two faults intersect with the ring fracture zone that resulted from the creation of the Yellowstone Caldera of 640,000 years ago. The basin consists of three main areas: Porcelain Basin, Back Basin, and 100 Springs Plain. Unlike most of other geyser basins in the park, the waters from Norris are acidic rather than alkaline. For example, Echinus Geyser has a pH of approximately 3.5. The difference in pH allows for a different class of bacterial thermophiles to live at Norris, creating different color patterns in and around the Norris Basin waters. The ragged hills that lie between Back Basin and 100 Springs Plain are thermally altered glacial kames. As glaciers receded, the underlying thermal features began to express themselves once again, melting remnants of the ice and causing masses of debris to be dumped. These debris piles were then altered by steam and hot water flowing through them. Madison lies within the eroded stream channels cut through lava flows formed after the caldera eruption. Green and red algae ground along the banks. The tallest active geyser in the world, Steamboat Geyser, is located in Norris Basin. During major eruptions, which may be separated by intervals of more than a year, the longest recorded span between major eruptions was 50 years. Steamboat erupts over 90 meters into the air. Steamboat does not lie dormant between eruptions, instead displaying minor eruptions of approximately 12 meters. Norris Geyser Basin periodically undergoes a large-scale, basin-wide thermal disturbance lasting a few weeks. Water levels fluctuate, and temperatures, pH, colors, and eruptive patterns change throughout the basin. During a disturbance in 1985, Porkchop Geyser continually jetted steam and water. In 1989, the same geyser apparently clogged with silica and blew up, throwing rocks more than 61 meters. In 2003, a park ranger observed it bubbling heavily, the first such activity seen since 1991. Activity increased dramatically in mid-2003. Because of high ground temperatures and new features beside the trail, much of Back Basin was closed until October. In 2004, the boardwalk was routed around the dangerous area and now leads behind Porkchop Geyser. North of Norris, Roaring Mountain is a large, acidic hydrothermal area, Solfatara, with many fumaroles. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the number, size, and power of the fumaroles were much greater than today. The fumaroles are most easily seen in the cooler, low-light conditions of morning and evening. The Hebgen Geyser Basin includes several thermal areas in the vicinity of the Hebgen River between Hebgen Falls and Norris. The most accessible feature in the basin is Beryl Spring, with a small boardwalk right along the Grand Loop Road. Artists' Paint Pots is a small hydrothermal area south of Norris Junction that includes colorful hot springs and two large mud pots. The Monument Geyser Basin has no active geysers, but its monuments are siliceous sinter deposits similar to the siliceous spires discovered on the floor of Yellowstone Lake. Scientists hypothesize that this basin's structures formed from a hot water system in a glacially dammed lake during the waning stages of the Pinedale glaciation. The basin is on a ridge reached by a very steep 1.6 kilometers trail south of Artists' Paint Pots. Other areas of thermal activity in Hebgen Geyser Basin lie off-trail. Water and steam shooting from ground as bystanders watch. South of Norris along the rim of the caldera is the Upper Geyser Basin. which has the highest concentration of geothermal features in the park. This complement of features includes the most famous geyser in the park, Old Faithful Geyser, as well as 4 other predictable large geysers. One of these large geysers in the area is Castle Geyser, which is about 430 meters northwest of Old Faithful. Castle Geyser has an interval of approximately 13 hours between major eruptions, but is unpredictable after minor eruptions. The other 3 predictable geysers are Grand Geyser, Daisy Geyser, and Riverside Geyser. Biscuit Basin and Black Sand Basin are also within the boundaries of Upper Geyser Basin. The hills surrounding Old Faithful and the Upper Geyser Basin are reminders of quaternary rhyolitic lava flows. These flows, occurring long after the catastrophic eruption of 640,000 years ago, float across the landscape like stiff mounds of bread dough due to their high silica content. A regular-shaped pool of crystal-clear water in ashen rocks. Blue Star Spring near Old Faithful Geyser. Evidence of glacial activity is common, and it is one of the keys that allows geysers to exist. Glacier till deposits underlie the geyser basins, providing storage areas for the water used in eruptions. Many landforms, such as Porcupine Hills north of Fountain Flats, are made up of glacial gravel and are reminders that 70,000 to 14,000 years ago, this area was buried under ice. Signs of the forces of erosion can be seen everywhere, from runoff channels carved across the center in the geyser basins to the drainage created by the Firehole River. Mountain building is evident on the drive south of Old Faithful, toward Craig Pass. Here the Rocky Mountains reach a height of 2,518 meters, dividing the country into 2 distinct watersheds.